Welcome to the Hard Water Fishing Show. Jeff and Jason talk tactics, gear, and ice fishing legends.
We are alive, season 7, episode 4. It is the second week of December 2023. Ready for some ice fishing talk, Jay?
I'm ready for some talk because the ice fishing itself in where I'm at is not happening. We were going gangbusters on ice. Like I was almost ready to go. And then now it's been 60 degrees, 55 degrees.
Yeah, I know. It's been, I think it's tough everywhere. It's not just here. So good thing we're talking about ice fishing show because you don't have to have ice to go to the ice fishing show is what we did last weekend.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it was great. It was a really great show. Saw lots of people, learned a lot. It was great. Great time. So we'll dive into that later.
Yeah, that's our topic of this show. So the St. Paul Ice Fishing Show, which is the show of shows, really, I guess, as far as I understand it. So, I
mean, in my life, it is. There may be better ones. I mean, I hope someday when I have more time in retirement, we can just go around to ice fishing shows.
I've heard the competition.
Ice fishing show groupies.
Well, there's people that do that because they go to every ice fishing show, but
they're trying to make money. We would just go.
I know. I feel spoiled sometimes when we go because there's people there that are like working, right?
And they're working their butts off.
Yeah. And we get to just enjoy it. And
we do.
And it's really nice.
It is. It's absolutely fun.
We'll talk more about that in our topic. But Jay, I'm getting kind of parched here. Do you have a beverage tonight?
Yeah, I do, but I want you to go first.
Okay. I think there's some kind of story here that you're not letting me in on. So I will go.
Why? Does it seem suspicious?
It does.
I'd let you go
suspicious.
First?
Even before we started, you had a big grin on your face and you're like, this is funny. And I don't even know what it is.
It is funny. It is funny.
Right.
But you do your beer first.
All right. So I have a Dangerous Man Brewing peanut butter porter, and I copied the thing from the website because I'm tired of trying to read the tiny print from cans.
That's a really good idea.
So this is a staple here at Dangerous Man, named Best Beer in the Twin Cities by City Pages, and has taken home many awards. A true to style, robust porter with a healthy dose of peanut butter. Our take on the style differs from most in that it finishes dry, not sweet, making it extremely drinkable. Which is why I think I like it, because I don't like too sweet beers. So here we go. It's really good. Really, really good, Jay.
Well,
all right. Good. So now we can clear the room. I'm glad I got a sip of beer, but why are you laughing at me?
I'm laughing because for once, in the only time in history on Hard Water Fishing Show in 7 seasons, we have picked a like beer.
Oh, nice.
So I have in front of me from Lake Time Brewery, which is in Clear Lake, Iowa. So it's a brewery up there. Lake Time Brewery, peanut butter porter.
Oh, peanut butter porter. Nice.
Which is what you have.
I do. Peanut butter porter.
A peanut butter porter. So let me see if I can read this can. The peanut butter cup has opened a delicious, hang on. I get my glasses out the end of my nose.
Oh my gosh, they're way out there.
Hey, knock it off. The peanut butter cup has been a delicious confectionery treat for years. Our brew combines that creamy chocolate peanut butter cup flavor with a malty, robust porter. This begs the question, how did we get this peanut butter flavor into beer? All we'll tell you is we went nuts perfecting it. Okay, now there's more. What is Lake Time, you ask? This is about the brewery, I think, or just their mantra. What is Lake Time, you ask? Lake Time is not a specific time, but a state of mind or an absence of time. Eat when you're hungry, sleep when you're tired, fish, swim, read a great book, and enjoy sunshine when you please. Naps are encouraged. I don't like naps. Friends and family are welcome. Nature is embraced. This is Lake Time. Our mission is to brew great craft beer that you can enjoy anytime, not just on Lake Time. Let us help you bring that moment home every day, wherever your lake time is, whatever your lake time is. Enjoy it. Lake Time Brewery. I've never heard of this place before until I found their beer. They're not that far from me, actually.
I'm in love already. I want Lake Time.
Lake Time. All right, so I'm going to open this baby up. There we go. And that is really good.
That is really good.
That is really that I enjoy that. I enjoy that quite a lot.
Good. I mean, I'm just happy after you described I mean, that feeling of I eat when I eat, I fish when I want to
I
fish,
know.
and
And
you
that's
know,
lake time, man.
it's
But I will
awesome.
tell you, I did have to redeem myself a little bit after my Natty Light last week. Even
Yeah.
though I don't mind Natty Light, I kind of felt like, pick it up a notch. So I went up to the old Dollar Fresh, saw what they had in their cooler, and they had some of this.
They're smart people. I feel like it's that scene in Dumb and Dumber where they're like, just when I think you can't do anything dumber, you totally redeem yourself, but you did
There you
actually
go.
redeem yourself.
I did a little bit,
Yes.
and it's good. I like it.
Yeah, I like it. All right. Well, we'll enjoy our peanut butter porters and move on to patrons. Want to thank all of our patrons for their support of the show. And tonight we are thanking Leo J. He is the patron of the show. So thank you, Leo. Cheers
Thanks,
to
Leo.
you. A peanut butter
Cheers.
porter. Cheers. All right. Listener news. We got some pretty good listener news tonight, Jay.
Yeah, we do. Absolutely. Want me to start with Northwoods Dave?
Yeah, you start with that one.
I'd echo his sentiment. Northwoods Dave wants to remind us that no fish is worth a life. Please be safe out there. Remember, if you have to be rescued, it's just not yourself you're putting at risk. You're also putting at risk the people that are coming out there to get you out. And so we don't want to have any bad accidents this year. So please make sure you have your safety stuff with you, your ice picks, your spud bar or ice chisel, some rope, safety whistle, whatever you need to make noise. And the other thing to remember all the time is a lot of times that safety equipment isn't just for rescuing you. You might need to help somebody else out. So it's good to have that stuff with your ice picks, life jacket if you don't have a float suit.
Nope.
Did you ever test your float suit, Jeff? You
I don't have a
float
float suit.
I meant to float in mine this summer because I think it'd be a better
Yeah.
test in the summer. It wouldn't be so miserably cold.
I wouldn't recommend jumping in the lake when it's frozen.
We have this hypothesis, right? If you'd only get one or the other,
Oh yeah.
do you get the pants or the jacket?
Or if you only had the float pants and a non-float jacket,
Would you flip upside down?
and then you would be worse off.
That was our question. So I never did buy the pants. I just have a float jacket.
Well, that's good that your upper body would float.
I know, but here's the problem. By the time it's cold enough, often for me to wear that jacket, I'm probably not going to need to float.
Yeah.
Well, so I should have bought the float bibs because a lot of times I'll just wear bibs in the sweater.
You're right.
Unless it's super cold. So the jacket, man, I only tend to put that thing on when it's just stupid cold, and usually by then the ice is pretty thick. But anyway,
well,
maybe I need to get the pants one of these years.
Get the pants. Maybe somebody wants to send us some pants and we can try them out. Probably a 2X for this guy.
You gotta be careful. They're gonna send you a pair of leather pants or something, Jeff.
Those chaps don't usually float.
The buttless chaps.
Yeah, they don't usually float. I don't have any of those, by the way, either.
We digress. Yeah. So Dave, thanks for the reminder. It's great to put that up front in the show. We just do want to make sure people are safe. So,
and we actually have a couple, people that have been on the show that are actually on some of these rescue.
Yep.
I don't like squads. I don't know what they call them. Squads, teams, rescue team.
Sure. All the things.
So I think that's kind of where that comes from too. And, this is a hard judgment call, right? Like, we've all gone through bring a spud bar, test the ice, don't just, Jason Mitchell, I was watching a video this week. He's like, we've all been there where you're spud barring out and fishing, and then some guy flies by you in a 4-wheeler and you're like, well, it's only 4 inches ice on here. What are you doing?
Yeah, I know.
So, but it's a judgment call, right? Because 3-4 inches ice, you better be testing that stuff. But everybody, sometimes it's locked up, sometimes it's not locked up, and that makes a big difference. And the wind blows it. I've been on 6 inches ice, and the wind blows things around. So, it's hard. It's not like one answer for that. I'll
give a shout out to Clear Lake Bait and Tackle. I'm on a Clear Lake kick tonight. Kevin Paul out there, who's a guide out of Clear Lake, does a bunch of videos every winter on Clear Lake ice until it gets good.
Yeah.
And so he spud bars his way out. And the one I was watching, he does a Facebook Live. And the one I was watching the other day, he did a really nice job of saying, of just showing people the process of spud
Yeah.
barring out what he looks for in the ice as he
Yep.
looks at the physical features of the ice. And then, then how he goes back when he backtracks, how he stays on his trail exactly, or he uses a spud bar, as he walks. So it's actually if you're new to ice fishing, I would jump on that Clear Lake bait and tackle, look at some of his Facebook lives or tune into those as he does them. He does a really nice job.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about you do 3 good whacks with that heavy spud bar. Usually that's a good sign, but it could be different on your lake. I mean, ice is different. I also think ice in the early season tends to be harder and clearer than it does later in the season. Not always, but
it does. But so what we're facing down here is the ice that was clear and hard and we had 2-3 inches of it is now not.
Yeah.
It's still 3 inches, but it's crap.
Yeah.
And I haven't looked at what happened to Clear Lake today, but it warmed up quite a bit. We had a bunch of wind, so I don't know if they're back at 0 or they still have some or not. So I'll have to get on there and check that out.
Yeah, it's pretty dynamic. I know they're out in Red Lake, but it's been pretty dynamic. I would really pay attention to the people up there because there's not a lot of good ice. It's been warm. It got a little cold. It's been warm. Yep. Really be careful out there.
Yep. All right. We beat that.
All right. Yes.
We beat that one.
Yes.
But no, we do, we want to be safe in all seriousness. So, all right. Why don't you go next?
All right. So this was really interesting. This is from one of our listeners sent this in, and he, Kale, he is the VP of Walleyes Unlimited in Minnesota here in Minnetonka.
Oh, cool.
So
it was nice of him to reach out.
Yeah, he listens. So he sent me a couple things, but he was going through some of our episodes from last year, and we were talking about spoons in Uncle Josh's pork rinds and like how you put things on there. Now, he said he had some more information on this, and it was really good. So Mark Martin, who I wasn't super familiar with. Do you know who he was, Jason?
No.
So he is he won the first tournament of champions held in International Falls, Minnesota, netting him $30,000. This was like in 90s or something. But
yeah, you would have had to read about. So this is how the world changed. 1990, you had to read about it in the newspaper or a magazine to know about it.
So, anyways, this guy is like walleye, Mr. Walleye. Like he is professional, knows what he's doing, right? Like 10 times more than I do. But he said, and I had to watch the video on how to do this. But when he buys spoons, and this applies in the winter and the summer, so it's not just a summer thing. You get your spoon and it's got a treble hook on it, right?
Okay.
So there's 3 points.
Yep.
So almost everyone that comes, he will take that treble hook off and spin it a different way. So one of the tines is parallel to the back of the spoon. So if you have 3, and if they're kind of on the side, basically, if you put some kind of bait or some kind of pork rind or whatever, it'll set the fluttering of your spoon off differently.
Okay.
So the balance is off, basically. Like your bait's on one side of the spoon or the other side of the spoon.
I'm buying that.
So if you get your bait down the middle, the spoon has the action that it's supposed to and acts and flutters more. So they said, in summer it's important, but they said in winter it's even more important because you have a hole, you drop your flutter spoon down there. If it's off balance, it won't flutter as far, right? You've only got a small space to fish. So if you hook it right and put it in there, it'll flutter further out the side of the hole and you may catch more fish. And in this case, he said he had stories where he caught more fish. This was like, he's saying this is a thing, like not just a theory.
Well, that is just about the most intriguing thing I've heard in a little while. Now I got to go check all my spoons.
Yeah, I didn't look at a spoon. I just saw this. I was just looking at this today, and he had a video where they were talking at an event, and he explained it because at first, Kale just kind of said, "You put your hook on the back," and I'm like, he's like, "Here's a video to explain it more," and I'm like, "You put the hook on the back? I don't even get it." But basically, it's keeping the hook balanced or keeping the lure balanced.
Sure. Huh. Okay. Well, we'll have to try that and report back.
And it's not that you won't catch fish if you don't do it. It's just that they will catch more fish. He told stories about him out fishing people in a boat by doing this. So, and sometimes I think some of this things is like, well, only if you use a Northland jig does it work this way. This wasn't that kind of information, right? This was like
Sure.
any spoon, any flutter spoon, probably not as much tungsten because those are like dropper spoons that just kind of flying to the bottom, right? But like ribbon leech spoons or those fluttery spoons.
You know what's interesting? In the summer, I never think to grab a spoon for walleyes.
Yeah.
But in the winter, we use all these little
Mhm.
vertical jig spoons and different kind of spoons. And so it's just a weird dynamic. You know, if you think about in the winter, it's like, well, I feel weird not fishing for walleyes with little spoons and a piece of bait. But in the summer, it's like, well, if I'm throwing a spoon on, I'm looking for a pike or bass or something else.
Yeah. And I mean, they use them for panfish, for crappie, spoons, everything.
I know.
Right?
I know. Okay.
So, I mean, and I don't want to go any deeper on this, but I do want to go deeper on this. Like, so the other thing, and this is from last year too, we talked about this, was for a while we've been using tungsten, like tungsten, like dropper. Like that's what everybody's using. And that's what I've been using for a while too. But we have kind of forgot about the flutter world, right? It is important. Sometimes they do want that drop to the bottom, and it's easy to fish like that. And I think that's why we fish like that more, because flutter spoons have more finesse and they're harder to fish with. But don't forget about the flutter spoons. Like keep one in your arsenal. Like sometimes the tungsten drop to the bottom immediately isn't as good as a spoon fluttering as it goes down, because they'll hit them on the bottom going down a lot.
Well, and I mean, the other kind of it sounds weird to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. I mean, the whole point of any spoon, drig, bait is to match what fish see, or one of two things, I think. Maybe there's more than two, but two I can think of. Number one, you want to match the forage. You want to match whatever that fish
match
would
the
eat.
hatch.
Match the, I hate saying match the hatch. Match the hatch. Fine.
Match the hatch.
You made me say it. Match the hatch. I mean that's option A. That's you're trying. Does that spoon mimic a bait fish, a wounded bait fish, some sort of bug, whatever? Second thing is you're just trying to make it mad, so it bites.
Yeah, you're just trying to make it like have a reaction to it, right?
Yeah, and since it can't slap you with its fins, it bites it.
And I think later, as we get through the season, it's more important to have the enticing bite than match the hatch. Because I think right now, like Red Lake, I'm going to use an example, the bite is hot, right?
Yeah, and I've certainly seen some pictures.
Yep. And Lake of the Woods can be like this too. And any lake where the bite is hot, sometimes it doesn't matter what you throw down there, right? I mean, you get a jig and a hook or whatever, and they don't even care. But in February, when they've been slow, I mean, I think you need enticing bites sometimes. They're not just going to bite on anything.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, cool. I always love when you learn something new, brand new, a perspective you've never thought before.
I know.
And this isn't new. This is new to me. This was in the 90s, right? Like this is.
There's a lot that gets like used and forgotten because the next big thing comes out.
You know what I heard, Jay? Speaking of 30 years ago in the 90s.
Yeah.
I saw
it was like the best ever.
I saw this TikTok.
I could get up off the floor without it hurting.
You didn't need that old man scoop.
I didn't pull a muscle putting a sock on. There's a lot good about the 90s.
Yeah. Well, so anyways, obviously that's our era.
I can go on.
That's our era to a point. But we saw this thing today and they go, like 30 years ago. And they go, you mean like the 70s? They're like, no, the 70s weren't 30 years ago. The 90s were 30 years ago. So
yeah,
made me feel old and need old man assistance.
There is a
reason. I know. It's hard to consider yourself that old though. Like I think you think of yourself as younger than you actually are. And,
oh, absolutely.
And then you go to your 30-year high school reunion and you realize that you're the same age as everybody else.
And they look old.
they look like you, Jay, and me, right?
Appreciate you writing in. Thanked us for a recommendation of the Red Door last year. We're going to try it again. That's awesome. He's got an 11-year-old kid that's starting to enjoy the show. which is wonderful. Thank you for listening. He didn't tell us his name, so we can't give him a shout out. He thinks we talk too much about beer. We just talk about beer like the very first part of the show. So you can always fast forward if you want. Preseason rituals. This is the question. His are refilling 1 pound propane cylinders, setting the shanty up in the back, justifying gear improvements using bogus math and financial data.
That was my favorite. That was my favorite.
So around that, my advice, when possible, is you always want to tie gear upgrades to safety. That's the best way, and you have to do that delicately because you don't want to give the impression you've previously been unsafe. So it's more about, it's a tightrope. It's a dance. It's just a dance. You got to do the dance. So you want to give the impression that you're just looking out for additional safety things, just to be the safest possible. So anyway, but yeah, the bogus math and financial data. I love it. Sharpening auger blades. Do you do that, Jeff? Do you sharpen your own auger blades?
I have never
ever done that.
I've never sharpened an auger blade in my life.
Either.
I have replaced them. But
yeah,
I mean, I'm sure if you're a fishing guide and you go out every day, I'm sure you need to sharpen them. But I have an Ion 40 volt with laser blades on it, right? And it's 5 years old. I've never replaced the blades. They probably need to be replaced, but I've never sharpened them.
Yeah. My pistol bit, we've had that a couple of years now, 3 years. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've drilled a lot of holes with that thing. Not as many as some people, but certainly have drilled. I mean, because we've used it on a couple of hard water trips. Yeah. I've used it, and I don't go out and just drill a hole. I mean, I'm a Swiss cheese kind of person when I fish, and yeah, I haven't hit anything with it. I think some of this might depend on how dirty the ice is where you fish. So if you're in an area that has, I'm just thinking maybe like a South Dakota or some place where you might get a lot of
North
dirt.
Dakota, when we were fishing in those lakes in North Dakota, that
ice was dirty.
If you hit the wrong spot, you hit dirt. And the other spot, you hit 3 feet of water.
Yeah, there's that.
Those kind of situations.
Yeah, once you hit any sort of dirt or sand with that auger blade, it's toast. But
only laser blades are like that, though. The chipper blades, you can kind of
I've got slicing dicer blades or whatever. They're not the chippers. So I probably need to get a new set. So that's interesting. Okay. A lot of comments out of this. DIY improvements in your sled and bucket, figuring how to turn it into 3-star resort. Yeah. So he upgraded to the Marcom Recon 5 underwater camera. We looked at that at the ice fishing show, kind of a nice camera. And he did a DIY project rod locker out of cardboard, foam, and duct tape.
I kind of want to see some pictures, Michael.
I want to see the rod locker. And I want to see it in a before the season picture and an after the season picture. So if you'd send that, I'm really curious on that.
Michael has more ingenuity than I, because I lose interest.
He's still running a hand auger. That's why he's sharpening blades. I bet if you're running a hand auger, you notice like immediately when those blades get dull.
Yes,
and I do running a power auger. You've got a whole bunch more like leeway on if that's bad or good.
I would agree with that.
That makes sense. So Mike and Boy, you guys have a great ice season. Make sure to send us some pictures of things you've caught and some stories to be told. Okay.
And this rod locker also.
And the rod locker. I want a before and after picture, man.
Yeah, no, that's.
And if you get up to Red Door, give a shout out. Maybe Jeff will be up there fishing.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe you can show him a thing or two. He can always
some ice
use help
this year.
Jeff can always use help. Always.
Yeah, for
Make
sure.
Make sure to tell him.
Absolutely.
Hashtag outfish Jeff.
Yeah, all right. You're trying that. He has hashtag ice fit. I don't know what that means. Ice fit?
Yeah, because he's running the hand auger.
Ice. Oh, that he's saying CrossFit ice fit.
CrossFit ice fit. Yeah, you're a little running behind tonight.
Oh, ice fit.
Stay with the program.
That's why he said crushing brewskis and burpees.
There you go.
I actually did burpees yesterday and I hurt.
What the heck? Those aren't mandatory.
I know, but
I
and then
know.
I did burpee, and I actually am not at CrossFit anymore. I've kind of retired a little bit for right now for CrossFit, but and my body shows it because there's more of me than there ever has been right now.
You're just a lovable guy.
Yeah, there's lots of the love me right now. We're trying to work on that so I can fit into my bibs for this year. But anyways, I did do burpees yesterday, but ice fit, I like it. I forgot we talked about that last year about you got to get ready to get out there. If you're walking, totally.
I see. I just bought a machine type thing.
Yeah.
That's my
upcoming episode.
Eventually, if I ever get ice or snow.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard this year, I think.
Yeah,
it'll happen.
We'll get there. Yeah.
I've never
I'm
seen
confident.
a season where we haven't. I mean,
if we get to January, we'll just start driving.
We have though in years though, Jay. We have booked. This was 20 years ago. We booked a resort, booked a place on Mille Lacs, and the ice wasn't good enough in mid-January to drive out there. Remember that?
Yeah. I also remember an early January trip up to where you go, where you're
oh yeah, up to by McGregor.
Yes.
We were up by McGregor.
Yep. Remember we were like spud barring out and the spud bar went through?
Yeah.
We were like, oh.
Yeah, and this was January. Yeah.
And then and like one spot we were when every time somebody would walk by or drive by, the whole ice would flex and stuff.
We were on Big Sandy. Do you remember that?
Big Sandy. That was Big Sandy.
We were fishing.
Super. And that was the same year you lost your phone, by the way.
It was, yeah. So this is many years ago, but we were on Big Sandy, and I mean, we were probably on, what would you say, 6 inches of ice? I mean, it was
at that spot, but there was another spot. It was really dicey.
Yeah.
We didn't go out all the way.
We walked
to go.
I'm pretty sure we walked out there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then we walked, and then a guy in a Gator 6x6 drove by.
I know.
We were like, the whole thing's shaking. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never told that. It's not really a legend. It's kind of a thing that happened.
No, it's just a story.
Yeah. I watched. Yeah. That was a sad day. Anyways.
So Philip N, to keep it moving, Philip N on Facebook, for bleeding out fish, uses a Rapala braid scissors to cut the throat. I like the 2-in-1 kind of combo, and throws them on the ice. Maybe it freezes before it totally gets bled out. I would imagine it's I did that bleeding out thing once in my shack, and when I flipped my shack, it looked like a massacre.
Okay. Well, yeah, I think you have to have a bucket or a cooler, and I don't like to let my fish freeze. That is a pain in the butt.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
put them in a bucket of snow usually.
Yeah.
If there's snow, but sometimes there's no snow.
Yeah.
So then you put some water in the bucket. I
always think of that iconic picture we have out on Red Lake. This was many years ago.
Many moons ago.
So Ole had his 4-wheeler, and on the front of his 4-wheeler, he has, I think they're actually like for a gun rack, but
it's a gun rack. Yeah.
But we use it for our ice auger rack, right? You put the handles in there, and it worked really well. But it was so cold. Remember, that was like bitterly cold that day. It was
stupid cold.
And we had a walleye, and it froze solid, and we put it in the
gun rack.
I mean, we eventually ate it, but like before we cleaned it, it was frozen. There's
also a picture of us like having a sword fight with frozen walleyes.
Yeah, they were it was
their finest moment.
So cold. So cold. That was the only time I got you to agree to not fish anymore.
I know.
I'm like, Jason, it's really cold. I think this isn't safe. We should go back.
And you're like, why though? You know why? Why did you get me to leave?
Well, because we were in a heated shack that was fishing also.
We could go back and fish more.
Yeah, we had a permanent shack.
Correct. We weren't giving up. We were simply changing locations.
Yeah, it was cold. It was cold. All right. So thanks, Philip, for that. Fishing report. So people are on Red Lake fishing. I've seen some of I'll call them famous ice fishing people. I don't know if that's right.
Oh, they're all on Red Lake. All the personalities
doing live shows.
Yeah. I mean, if that's your jam, that's where you need to be. Otherwise you're doing old content. So you might as well get out there and do content.
Well, and part of the problem is there's just not many places to go. I mean, there's
not unless you go to Canada.
Yeah.
I did see somebody was out on Winnebagosh.
Oh, cool.
I don't know how far they were out on Winnebagosh. Kurt was really excited about Lake of the Woods freezing over, and I think it stopped.
Yeah.
So
he posted on Facebook a couple days later.
Jinxed it.
And they had remember he talked about the satellite picture, right?
Yep.
And he said he was waiting for that because that's how you can really tell if it's locked up.
Yeah.
And being
it's
locked
not.
up on a big lake is really important, and it's not locked up.
Correct. It keeps you from floating away.
Yeah, because otherwise you go sitting on 6 inches of ice, the wind blows and cracks, and you're
Now
like
you're like
Buddy Elf. You're like Buddy Elf floating
like a
away,
castaway.
but you don't end up in New York afterwards.
No. And then you have to decide, do I care? Or will it freeze? How long will I be here before it freezes
Pull
up
out the
again?
Johnson, hook it up to a sheet of ice, and just cruise
Yeah,
around the lake. I don't know.
absolutely.
Real things have happened out there, so be careful. But consider yourself a lucky few that are getting out
Yes.
there. I mean,
And send us your fishing reports.
yeah,
Please do. And because we know that this isn't just a Minnesota, Iowa show. We got listeners all over. So please, please, please feed us some content. Would like to see fish.
I have seen some of our listeners in the mountains, and I think they have ice because I think it just happens. So
Yeah.
I think some of those people are fishing. But even out east, I don't know. I guess we'd have to check with some of our out east contacts.
Yeah,
but
Colby.
I don't know. Colby maybe could tell us, but I'd be surprised if they're fishing out there yet. All right, Jay, you want to run us through show business?
Show business. Best place to interact with us is on social media with Instagram and Facebook. Hardwatershow.com for our website. We're at YouTube at Hardwater Show. You can email us at hardwatershow@gmail. It's probably the best way. Instagram and Facebook are okay too.
Yeah.
On X, we're at Hardwater Show as well. Yeah. We always enjoy getting content from you guys. So we thank you very much for that.
For sure.
Jeff, we didn't have any fact checks. That's awesome. That
No
means
fact
everything,
checks.
everything we've said in the last show is 100% true. Take it to the bank.
According to us.
Just a reminder for those that are new, that our policy here on the Hardwater Show is that you have from now till the next show is published to fact check us. And if you do not, then the information stands. It cannot be refuted and or argued in the future.
That comes with no warranty, implied or actual.
I mean, mileage may vary. Do at your own risk. Always applies. 100%. No warranty expressed or implied in any information other than just the knowledge that it's 100% true and accurate. And if it didn't work, you just screwed it up.
It's a user error.
It's a completely user error.
Everybody else catches a walleye on this lake. Why didn't you? User error.
You screwed it up.
You pulled a Jeff.
Jeff.
Anyways. All right. So really good current events here. I don't know. I love to consume information about fishing. I don't know. I have outdoor news. I have virtual angler Jason Mitchell's thing. He had a really awesome Black Friday deal, was half price. He posts a lot of content there and just all over the place. But
well, I mean, when you hit middle age, which you are, you had a choice. You have to make something your passion.
Yeah.
So like you could know everything there's to know about World War II history. You could take up gardening, for example.
By the way, I like both those things. I like both those things. So
but ice fishing is your passion and my passion.
Yeah.
So we don't quiz me on World War II information. I don't know a lot about trains, any of that stuff, but we do know some stuff about ice fishing.
Man, I watch too much YouTube because I like all those things you just mentioned.
Oh, did you? Oh, well, never mind.
Did you know? Well, did you know?
Oh, no, I don't want to know. Okay, go ahead. No, I want to know.
Did you know that, in Duluth, you've been to Duluth before?
Oh, yeah. I was born in Duluth.
So
I'm a Duluthite. I'm a native Duluthian.
You've been to the train museum in Duluth.
I love the train museum.
We went there as kids. We'd take the pumpkin train.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
In the museum, they have that big boy.
Yes.
It's like this train. It has like articulation. It's like the giant thing. They brought one of those back and it's driving around on the tracks.
Huh.
So they converted it from coal to fuel oil because they couldn't, I don't know, I guess coal
probably
anymore.
Environmental.
Well, it's still not, I mean, black smoke comes out of it. It's not like but so it's kind of like a PR thing. I saw this video and so they resurrected it. It took, I'm sure, $1 gazillion, but it drives around on the tracks and it's a steam locomotive, right?
Well, it's not. It's fuel oil.
fuel, but it's
Well, is it
powered by
steam though?
steam.
They use the fuel oil to make the boiler
Yes.
go. Okay, so
Still
it's a
steam.
Yeah.
Just not coal steam. It's steam.
So
Steam.
cool.
Uh,
Nothing like it.
So this video of this regular train, with diesel, electric regular trains, got stuck on the tracks on like the mountain, and they're like, "Yeah, sure, we can help." And he hooks up to the back of this thing, and you got a steam train pushing this mile long.
Oh, they could. That thing's
Crazy.
got crazy horsepower.
So I have a lot of passions, but yes, this is one of them. But
See,
so
people did not expect us to talk about trains. You just hang with us. You never know what rabbit hole or.
I don't know how to garden. You're better at that than I am. So
I've done some fair bit of gardening, but we're not getting into that.
and I do I was just watching a World War II Netflix history show. So anyways.
Okay. All right. Well, I maybe need to retract my earlier statement about you then.
No, I just have too many things, but there's some really good information out there about ice fishing. And so this was a debate thing here, Jason. And the Back to Basics by James Linder. So, Linder obviously knows ice fishing. And he was talking about how he said high-end mapping has truly revolutionized the sport of fishing and is arguably the most beneficial tool for anglers who understand how fish move seasonally. So this made me think of this question. If you could have a lake map or a flasher, which one would you take? New Lake.
So brand new lake, I have no idea any of the depth.
You can stare at a frozen lake. It's got snow on it.
Never been there.
Never
and
been
I can
there.
have a flasher, just a flasher.
Just like you could have
or a lake map.
FL18, you could have a Markham, whichever flasher you want, right? Even
I would take the flasher
over a map.
How many batteries do I have for my auger?
Well, as many batteries as you want.
I'm taking the
Okay.
flasher and my auger, and we're going to get some work done.
So you're going to punch holes 2 feet,
I
1
am.
foot, 2 feet, 1 foot.
Yeah, and I would tell you my experience from that would come from my trips to the Boundary Waters,
Okay.
where we often didn't have lake maps, and so you'd have to use kind of the surrounding terrain to guide you on some of your
Yeah.
decisions as to where fish would be or wouldn't be. But I still think, especially in ice fishing, being able to know if there's fish underneath you and maybe what that bottom composition is more valuable than a lake map. That's my opinion.
I think I'm taking the lake map. Why can't
The
lake
lake map.
Because I can go, there is a point over there with a transition. It's a mid-lake hump, and I can drill a hole, put my lead weight, drop it to the bottom, tell how deep it is.
You're not going to find mid-lake humps without a map. You're going to work the shore breaks.
Yep.
You work off islands that you can see. But yeah, you're right. You're not going to find those. But now you didn't say if other people have fished that lake, because I may find a mid-lake hump just by looking for other people's spots.
Okay, there you go. That's
be
legit.
Interesting. Why are there holes here? And then I'd drill a hole and I'd use my flasher to tell me how deep it is, and I'd go 30 feet in their direction and map it.
You're totally right. That's
now,
good.
If you had the map and I had the sonar, we'd be a perfect team.
Yeah, I was thinking like you had to choose and you had no access to one or the other.
Yeah, I'd take the sonar every day.
And you have a good point, because I do this and you don't even realize it. You read the shoreline to tell you what the lake is doing, don't you?
I do.
Like steep cliff that goes into the water, big drop off.
What the ground's coming in, I do. The other thing I would say is I'm so used to fishing smaller structures, smaller lakes in Iowa here, that just there's really no lake map.
Oh, yeah.
So I just, I really, yeah. And then I fished so many years in a boat without a lake map, for years with no lake map. Just a depth finder.
Before I had any kind of thing that would show me like any electronics at all, I would buy those plastic cards at the bait shop that would show you. It wasn't. They weren't
very helpful,
but it would tell you, like, it would still be good enough to kind of guess, right? You could tell, is this just a big
shallow bay or is this deep to the edge?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, certainly it'd mark like walleyes on a little spot, and you could try to find like I'm in the walleye spot that the plastic map says. Well, I'm not catching fish.
And then we used to have the books, like you could buy the
The
Metro
book.
books of all the lakes. And now, I mean, I've got it on my Helix 7, and I use it as much as I use it to find the gross spot I want to fish, the big spot. And then you use the other one to locate smaller.
Yep. I mean, I just think you're fishing different.
Yeah.
But I take, no, it's a great question.
Just made me think of it. So
I tell you, it'd be an interesting tournament to not allow any electronics anymore.
how about no anything, no maps, no electronics, like just
grandpa. Can you bring grandpa?
Well, and if you've been on the lake before, I mean, we all back in the day, you'd be like, line up the water tower with the blue house,
Absolutely.
and then you're gonna fish 10 feet off a shore or whatever. I mean, we used to do that all the time.
And you get back there the next year and they'd painted a dumb house. You're like, which house was that? Yeah.
All right. I just thought it was interesting about, we don't think of the mapping. People talk about forward facing sonar and flashers a lot, but we don't talk about the maps as much.
No, we don't. We should talk. We could do a whole show on reading maps.
Yeah.
Maybe we get someone from Navionics on the show. That'd be kind of fun.
And I certainly have proclivities on how I fish when I look at a map. And sometimes I question those, right? Because you're like, oh, I should fish on the windward side of the break. I should fish on the narrow part. I don't know. But some of them are probably wrong. But I certainly have ways I fish.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And we fish pretty similar because I've looked at a map, you've looked at a map independently of a whole lake, and like we come up with the same spot we're going to start.
I remember when we were at Mille Lacs the first time you came up there, and I said, you're fishing and you wanted to go somewhere else, like other than where the wheelhouse was. And I said, here is where I think you should go. And I think Matt was already fishing there because that's where he picked, right? Like,
yeah, we already had it picked out. We coming out of that access, there's only so many spots. You're like, hey, I think this is where we should be. And there we were.
And any given day, that's where somebody will be fishing.
Yep.
I mean, it's a spot.
Absolutely.
All right. There was Steve Carney has this article, Angle from the Northwest Angle, which is just kind of a regular thing.
Mm-hmm.
But he talked about gear, and we saw at the ice show there's some lighting, and lighting is kind of a big deal, and people hook batteries up to their lights that are built into the shacks and that kind of stuff. But I still pretty much rock a headlamp most of the time. I know it's not as bright, but from a portability perspective, you can just bring it with, and I know there's lots of other things. The fussiness and stuff gets to me sometimes. So I don't know. He talked about a bunch of gear, but I with him mostly use a headlamp for my light source.
Yeah, I have headlamps in about every vehicle I own and every pocket of everything when it comes to gear, and I use them in the winter. My new Climb Kenai has a built-in light bar, and I do like that, but I do like an overhead light in a flip over. But the nice thing about the headlamp is the light's always where your eyeballs are.
Well, and I like those overhead lamps and stuff, but I still, even that they had that one in the Clam it's really thin, it's LED folded up. I mean, it couldn't be easier, right? There's no way to make that easier, except there's a wire that you have to hook up to your lithium battery that sits on the side of the shack. And I'm like, so you either have to, I know we have them for our flashers, but either you're hooking up your flasher battery to the LED lamps in your shack, which is possible, but it has to be in the right spot and that kind of stuff. Or I'm bringing an extra lithium battery with me just to hook up the LED lights in my ice shack. And that seems like overkill. I don't know. Maybe everybody has one of these things and they bring an extra battery just for all their other stuff, but it feels fussy to me, and a headlamp puts in my pocket and I do whatever I need to do.
Mm-hmm. So
even though it's not as good as a overhead lamp.
I've got an adapter for my drill battery that I use for my auger.
Oh.
And so I just hook it into that, and that has a cell phone charger on it and a hook in for the light.
That seems smarter than another
So,
lithium battery power box.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's a real simple way to do it. It just depends on what kind of auger you're running.
Yeah. But
You know,
I
when
like
I'm
that.
running the drill,
It's not as
that
simple as
works.
a headlamp, but it's still simple.
No, it's absolutely not as simple as a headlamp. I think the headlamp for me, you know, if you're putting in like, so I don't know, it's just comfort sometimes in a long day on
For
your
sure.
forehead.
Yeah, there always seems to be this like pull between comfort and portability, right? Like there's
Yeah.
some kind
Oh,
of,
yeah.
like the more comfortable you are, the less portable you are, and the more less likely you are to move because you're too comfortable.
Yeah. Probably not my headlamp's going to keep me from walking.
No. All right. Yeah. And I just keep some extra AAA batteries too when you get your headlamp because it always seems like when you get out there, it dies. So I always bring my extra. And I like the rechargeable ones. I buy these Amazon rechargeable AAA batteries. They're so nice.
I ditched the rechargeables. I haven't done those. I buy the Rayovac, the big packs of Rayovacs, and
If you buy Amazon Basics rechargeable batteries off of Amazon, they're almost as cheap as buying real batteries.
oh,
Like
are they?
they are so cheap now. I'll
You
buy
know what?
yeah, they're so cheap.
You know what saved me a lot of money is I finally bought a little battery tester.
Oh yeah.
So when I find a battery in a drawer, I can test it. And I know
Yeah.
if it's good or bad. And I tell you what, more than often they're good.
Yeah.
And which tells me I would throw out a lot of good
Oh,
batteries over
I
the
know.
years. Because I'm like, well, I don't know if you're good or bad. So you chuck it because you're like, well, I don't want to put a bad battery in
Right.
something.
Yeah.
So now I test.
That's a good idea. No, I have a little charger and we just have a box and you swap them out. And I don't know. I've really gotten into those lately because I get so tired of throwing them away. It's such a waste. I don't know. Anyways, who knows maybe the rechargeable ones are worse. I really don't know. It seems like they'd be
Yeah.
better, but
I just chuck them.
I know. But anyway. All right. So batteries and headlamps. Moving on from that. Jay, tell me a little bit about that shuttle you bought. Now, it wasn't for you at the show, but you bought a shuttle.
Nope. I got a buddy of mine that picked up a Garmin Live Scope and he needed a shuttle for it. And so I picked up a Fin Gear shuttle, which is the same shuttle Oli has for his. And so we picked up, they were like $50 off at the show.
It was a really good price. I
Yeah,
thought
it was. It's
under
like
200 bucks
209 bucks.
with tax and
Well,
everything.
yeah, plus the government's pick. But for that Fin Gear shuttle, which is really solid, nice made out of metal shuttle, and it'll fit that Garmin Live Scope really well. So, yep, we'll pick that up for him and looking forward to him using that when we go fishing.
You're like, look at, I got you part of.
I know that's why I call it because I knew he hasn't have it set up yet. I'm like, hey, I'm at the ice fishing show. You need a shuttle?
Just Can I buy the cheapest thing you can buy for this?
Just nudging him forward. Because I mean, the thing is, like, if you know what I've decided is it's cheaper for me to talk up Panoptics so the guys I fish with buy one because I don't need my own if they have it.
Yeah.
It's like if you bought a snow bear, I don't need a snow bear. I'll just ride with you. Someone's
someday
got to ride shotgun.
The price will cross the X Y axis where it actually makes sense. The price will come down, you know.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, the snow bear will come down. Probably not.
Snow bear I don't think is gonna get any cheaper, but electronics tend to.
Dude, I still want one.
Yeah,
it's on my list.
I know. It'd be awesome. All right. Well, should we talk about our topic here, Jay?
I think we should. So we went to the St. Paul Ice Fishing Show. It was a lot of fun. We had pizza afterwards and we went home.
Yes.
What were your highlights?
Well, okay, good show. Thanks for listening.
Good show. Okay, so one thing that I thought was pretty cool, Snow Dog. We talk about Snow Dog. We've on and off over the years, and so they were at the show, and they had some kind of next gen stuff going on that depends on how you feel about it, but it certainly was neat. I'd love to see it in action. As they had an electric bike, and they had an electric Snow Dog. Now, the concern always is with electric, what do you do when you run out of electric? You're out in the middle of nowhere and your battery dies. Interestingly enough, they had thought of that and they had built into both machines a caddy carrying device for a generator. So the motorcycle had a generator on it that could be removed from the bike, as did the Snow Dog that could either provide another 60 miles of range, but it could be running as you're snow dogging and or riding your motorcycle, electric motorcycle. I know it's innovative. It's kind of cool. Certainly, that electric motorcycle for sneaking up on in a deer season, we haven't seen much in the way of electric ATVs yet, Jeff, really. I'm sure they're out there, but this is probably the first foray into that. It was like one of those Rubicon things, that were always in the popular science magazines.
Yeah.
It reminded me a lot of those. I'm still like, if I ever found one of those cheap, I'd buy one for up at the cabin, but it kind of really reminded me of that. And they were just hot off the press. So they were just finished, those concept vehicles. So it's pretty cool.
It looked like kind of like a big mini bike.
It
right?
did.
Like
the
mini bike from the 80s. And I don't know where mini bikes came from. Everybody had a mini bike in the 80s. I don't know where they came from. I mean, with a lawnmower engine in it that went, I don't know.
Loud.
So it kind of looked like a big mini bike.
Yep.
But it was run electricity, but there was a generator to charge it. And it was really cool. So it's basically like a hybrid, essentially.
Yeah, it's a hybrid. Yeah.
I mean,
in a lot of ways.
Except the generator could only charge the battery.
Correct. Yeah, the gas portion did not drive the wheels. It just quick charged the battery.
Yeah, well, and I think you couldn't like drive it on the gas. Like you still would have to stop, charge it for a while, and then go a little ways, and then stop and charge it and go for a little ways.
As I understood it, if you turn the generator on before your battery died, you can get ahead of the discharge.
Okay.
It gives you longer range. But eventually, once it's dead, you're going to have to let it charge for a while. And they said, a couple hours to get to full charge. So let's think the Snow Dog. So you head out, you charge it when you're out there. I think that's great. You head home. The only thing only question I would have is similar to what we've talked about with the with your ice shack. When you're running a generator, do you run the generator while you fish? Does it have an effect on the fish, the vibration, etc.?
Yeah.
So, but there again, people out there doing different things, and the simplicity of electric motors really compared to gas, it's kind of cool.
I thought it was cool. And even if it doesn't end up being like something I get, I think it's cool that people are doing that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, it's people are trying. I mean, it's cool. It's something different.
So think about it from the homemade market idea.
Yeah.
Like Snow Dog, there's not a lot of gearing. There's 2 gears, usually your motor drive to your chain drive. You can get a lot of stinking horsepower out of an electric motor compared to a similarly sized and weight gas motor. So now, and you've got these lithium batteries that are pretty particular. That's to me the game changer. These lithium batteries, and they only had in that Snow Dog, they only had 2 60-amp batteries.
Yeah.
You could double that.
Oh yeah.
Range easily.
Yep.
With 100-amp batteries.
Yeah.
So, then you're talking to your controller and stuff. I mean, so there's a DIY portion of that too to think about.
But it's cool. I don't know that I'm ready to sign
You're still
up.
going to spend more than the $300 Predator motor or whatever you buy from Harbor Freight. You slap on the DIY ones.
Yes, for sure. Well, I am excited I got a new Otter cabin hub with the big door. I got rid of my Otter cabin with the taco door, so now I have one with the big door. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, I'm real excited for you. Take that kid out and try to catch him a fish.
Yeah, well, we got to get some ice first.
Yeah, no doubt.
But it'll be out when there's enough ice. So I'll do a tour. I put a video out there of the old one. I'll do a tour of the new one and put that out on Facebook, on YouTube eventually here.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
So Jason, do you remember the bait loader?
I do remember the bait loader. So do you want me to talk about it, or you want?
Yeah, you talk about it. Yeah.
So this was probably one of the most innovative solutions looking for a problem things I've ever seen in my life. And I got to give the fellow props that made it, because it was pretty cool. So waxies, you got them in a little cup and you got to pluck them out of there and put them on your hook. This dude had created a sorting ring, essentially, that loaded all them little waxies into a little tube, and then you could take your hook and spear them little buggers right out of the little loader, so you never had to touch them, I guess, at least when you're trying to hook them on. So to me, the advantage of, you could do this with a glove on.
Yes. Yep.
You could do it with a glove on. That was the big thing that I took away, because I don't think any of us are. I mean, you still got to kind of flick the little buggers to get them load up properly, and I mean, whatever. I don't think any. If you're squeamish about hooking a wax worm on, you're probably not going to go fishing anyway. So, I don't think that. To me, it was more about, you could do that whole process with the glove on. You wouldn't have to take a glove off, and if it's super cold, that's really important. And yeah, so then you could take your little waxy and hook them on there, or a maggot, and you didn't have to touch it, and you keep your gloves on to load it up. It was cool. He had a whole thing going on.
It was very cool.
So it looks like he's got a Facebook site. So Facebook Bait Load is the name of it. And the other little cool thing, Jeff, why don't you talk about this that he had? I'd never seen this before, and that was really cool too.
Yeah, and you thought of me because I'm always talking about sharpening your hooks.
You are.
Safety. You don't want rusty, dull hooks. You want sharp hooks, Jason.
Never had a fish write me a letter about getting tetanus.
But it was this little spot. Like, you just put it like a sticker almost. You'd put it on your
It was
rod.
literally a sticker with sandpaper on it.
That's all it was. But
yeah,
then you stick them on things, and then you can sharpen your hook anywhere you are. And I thought
just give it a little swipe, and I thought that was another really inventive kind of a, that's cool kind of thing. Like, you wouldn't, so simple but awesome.
Well, and I think a lot of these things you see, there's still a lot of independent people out of these shows. And 3D printing is really some of this was 3D printed. It helps get you to that prototype level, or just kind of, you don't have to pay somebody $10,000 to spool up a mold to create it or something, right? You can just kind of print it at home and try it out and sell a few and see if it works out without a huge investment. So I think 3D printing has really helped some of our industry get cool things. And maybe, eventually, like we saw with the Bass King guys, that shuttle I have, noticed last year mine was 3D printed. This year theirs was not 3D printed. It was metal. So, they got started on 3D printing, but they moved on to other things. So, all right. So, Jay, why don't you talk about, we saw Dave Gens there.
We did. So Dave was there at the show. He was demonstrating how to use a tungsten or a snowdrop jig and a silky, and super cool. It's like a little skirt for your jig, and it just flutters and floats in the water, and it is pretty cool. It was pretty cool. He was super chipper, and you can tell he just loves talking to people about ice fishing. It's so cool to see. And I would just say, and we're not sponsored by Clam or nothing, but the Clam guys were all over that show, everywhere helping out, and they were just all super friendly. And I just like to recognize good work when I see it, and they certainly were very helpful in every time they could, and showing people things and talking to people. They did a really nice job. I don't know, my 2 cents.
I agree. And Dave is super great. He's, he invented the Clam ice the flip over shelters that we talk about all over the place. And he's still out there showing two guys how to fish a jig, right? I mean, and loving it. So they are passionate about it. And I think, like you said, Clam in general, I mean, they brought a lot of innovation to ice fishing. Absolutely. And made it super accessible. So you can't say enough about how good.
Yeah, and they're willing to share knowledge, and I mean, it's just nice. It's just a great group of people.
I mean, I'm way underestimating if I said there was 25 pros there.
Man,
there's so many. And we asked a
Yeah.
question, and the guy brought us across the whole place looking for the special tackle box. I mean,
Yeah.
super helpful.
Yeah. That was Matt Klug.
Yeah, Matt Klug. Yeah, I mean, he's
Yeah.
like, oh, we'll go find one.
Yeah. He
So,
guides up by St. Cloud.
yeah, very close to where I'm at.
I know. He could teach you how to catch fish.
Maybe he could teach me how to catch some fish.
I listened to an interview with him. He just was on another podcast. He was talking about he likes teaching quite a bit. So I thought, gosh, Jeff needs to go fish with that guy.
That seems to be a thing, and maybe this is just obvious, but I think there's a lot of teachers who guide, because we've talked to a couple of them.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of a natural, they're just naturally good at that. They have the patience for it.
And it takes patience, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So the thing that Dave always talks about, and he's talked about this for years, Dave Gens, when you have your tungsten jig on there, it's not meant to be vertical. Any jig, yeah, any jig. It's meant to be horizontal, at least for ice fishing. I don't know if you can always get them to do that in the summer, but that's something I totally changed as soon as Dave Gens showed me that years ago. And the other thing with the Silky is it is actual silk, so it's like it absorbs smells and it acts differently than other materials do in the water, and that's why it's successful. Jay, you talked to this SOS guy, sled organizing system, quite a bit.
Yeah, this was kind of a cool thing. So this fellow, he is using lightweight plastic and I think CNC, and developed an organizing system for the different flip over shacks and just pull behind sleds. And kind of a cool thing, he's got different designs on there. So instead of making it out of plywood, for example, if you want everything kind of to have its own place, you can use these dividers, and it's all customizable and adjustable for your particular sled. Looks like it runs about anywhere to 150 to $200, depending on the size of sled. And you get a bunch of different size dividers to keep all your stuff from rattling around and keep it all safe. So it's pretty cool. It's born and raised in Minnesota. It's a Minnesota product. He makes it in Minnesota. It's not an overseas product, so it's pretty neat. Sledorganizingsystem.com is his website. So check that out if you're looking for something different and you're like, I really need to organize my sled, but I'm never going to do it. And honestly, looking at his stuff and the prices, man, by the time you bought all your fasteners, your plywood, cut everything out, screwed and glued it together, and it wouldn't be adjustable. So if you got a different size auger, now you got to redo it. I think it's a pretty good deal. I think it's actually a pretty reasonable price for what he's selling. So my 2 cents.
And it's lighter weight. Like you put some plywood in there, it's going to be way heavier than this. I don't know what kind of plastic it is. I should know, but it's a lightweight plastic.
It's HDPE.
That thing.
Which is a recycled plastic product.
So is it basically like milk jugs?
It's like recycled milk jugs. Yeah, but it's really sturdy. It's sturdy stuff. And
it's thin. It's light. It was not heavy.
Yep.
So
but I mean, if you go to the website, you can see like he's got an auger in there, and it's got its little spot, and his rod bag's got a spot, and then his propane's got a little spot, his heater, and his Garmin. It's all sectioned off. So if you're bouncing down the highway on it, or across the ice at 20 mile an hour, it should all stay put.
He could make the best infomercial.
Who?
He would be like, without the SOS system, somebody walks out to their ice shack and they open their sled and they're like, oh no, and everything's flying everywhere.
Yeah, like you could look in mine and look in his. And
then you'd be like, and he'd get out there and be like, look at all my stuff is where it's supposed to be.
Right, where it's supposed to be.
I don't know why. So that's what I thought about.
It was cool.
An infomercial where they're like, oh no, it's a total mess, because we've all been there where your stuff gets beat up and broken and stuff breaks.
My personal favorite is when the corner of the cover comes off and then the snowmobile just fills your whole shack with snow. So you get there to fish, you take the rest of the cover off, and you have it's just all snow.
So this would keep the snow in the one corner
it would at least keep it in the little box. Yeah. But this wouldn't fix that problem, but
I thought
at least you'd know where your stuff was.
That's right. I thought and we've all had stuff break on Lake of the Woods. We've had heaters break because they bop around. Whatever. It just gets beat up back there. So All right. So this was something your cousin really keyed us in on, was this Otter Sidekick jump seat on a
Yeah,
6 gallon bucket.
my cousin Ryan showed me this, and it's just a seat that snaps onto a bucket, but it's got a backrest on it, and it's surprisingly comfortable. You wouldn't think it would be looking at it. I would recommend the 6 gallon bucket so your knees aren't as close to your ears. But it was certainly a comfortable thing, and it was lightweight and had a handle on it. So I mean, for certain, if I was fishing with a maybe in a flip over, not a flip over shack, or a
Hub.
hub shack, I wouldn't, it'd be actually a really great spot to stick a kid, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And takes up a lot less space than, let's say, a regular camp chair. And then you got your bucket to throw your fish in and stuff. So yeah, it definitely has a good use to it.
Yeah, and I think they strap into Otter shacks too. If you have flip over ones, the bigger ones, they're supposed to be like, you can kind of make a 2-man, a 3-man if you put that in the middle. So I think they fit into their system a little bit.
Yeah, it fits in the center of an Otter shack. Yeah.
But it goes on a 5-gallon bucket that would work anywhere. So I mean, it's not just limited to that.
Man, if they could make that sucker that lightweight and put a swivel on it, I'd be.
Well, it kind of swivels. You just move your bucket in the circle,
I guess. Yeah. I was thinking more like hunting on a blind.
Oh, yeah.
Be comfy in a blind.
Yeah.
Depends on the height, I suppose, but
sure. All right. So Jay, you went deep on cameras too.
I did go a little deeper than I normally do on cameras. I'm starting to look for a lighter weight camera. I have a Markham camera now. And it's kind of a square box camera with the lid that flips up. I think it's really similar to, I forget the model number, but it's like the VC 485 or the Markham Mission. It's really similar to that. So I'm looking at the Recon series or Pursuit series on the Markhams. And then I looked at the AquaView cameras as well. And so the AquaViews were nice. Couple of things that I noticed that were different than the Markham. So the one thing on the newer AquaView that I didn't like as much is it had kind of a proprietary connection to the charger, which, is one of those things like, why not do USB-C?
Yeah.
They've been around for a while now. They can't be expensive component wise. So why are you going with a specialty cord that probably won't break, but if I lose it or it does break, now I'm at a loss. So it's kind of like, man, I wish it didn't have that.
It does have its benefits though, because it was a magnet thing. So like,
yes,
it was easier and probably would break less because, USB-C, you could like hit it and it would bend.
It's a good point.
The magnet would like just fall off. Now I'm not saying it can't be broken, but there were some benefits to it, even though it is, I agree with you, it's proprietary. And, he said buy two in case one breaks but you hate to be sitting there with a $500 camera and you can't buy the 99-cent cord to power it. So it's just a brick.
Or you lost it or forgot it, which is more likely with me.
It's on the ice on the lake somewhere.
Somehow so it gets in a pocket separate from the camera. That's what happens.
Yeah.
And then there you are. So the other thing that was different between the AquaView and the Markham is the Markham cameras, some of them, the Pursuit HD, or the Recon. Let me look, make sure I'm getting my words right so I don't lead people astray here. The Pursuit HD camera is directional, so you know which direction it's facing in the water. Yeah. And the AquaView didn't offer that. Now the flip side is the AquaView setup, the camera is much, much lighter.
Yeah.
So the whole thing was much lighter than the Markham Pursuit. They both offered like SD card type recording, which was pretty cool. The graphics were pretty similar. And I like the cord wind they now have on the back of these. They have like a little reel to reel it up. So I don't know which one I'm going to get. Quite frankly, I'm saving my Shields points and going to try to pick up a new camera this year. So we'll see. One thing that's really important to me, and I'm still, I guess, working on ferreting out, is which one has the best visibility outside. Is probably, and I didn't get really to the bottom of that answer yet, so I'll keep you guys kind of tuned in if I find a distinctive answer, although they may be both very, very similar, quite frankly.
And when you say visible outside, you're saying the brightness of the screen that you look at.
That's always a problem ice fishing, is a bright. I mean, even on your phone sometimes.
Yeah.
Like trying to see stuff on a phone. My older camera, it's almost impossible to see outside, so that means I end up fishing inside a lot more, because I love to see I like watching fish on the camera. I like seeing the jig on the camera. So
tell me about the directional thing. Like, you use the camera. I don't even have one, but I know you use one more than I have. Like, why is that important? Like, why is it important to know
so
direction?
For me, I never put the camera down the same hole I'm fishing.
Okay.
So I like to set it up in between my two holes, so I can watch one hole, or I can turn it to the other hole and watch that hole.
Gotcha.
And so then you're kind of looking. So if the water's kind of murky, you're looking for this like little tiny jig sometimes. And so to know which way you're rotating that camera,
okay. Sure.
East, west, south, and kind of have a sense of, I need to spin it 180 degrees. So if I'm facing due north, I need to face it due south, to find my jig. I think it's a time saver.
Yeah,
quite frankly.
No,
and so that's why the direction, I think, is going to be pretty important to me in the end, just because I spent a lot of time like turning the camera, turning the camera. My God, I should have seen it by now.
Yeah.
How far does it spin underneath? That whole deal. So that's why, to me, the direction is important.
And does the weight matter? Because like, I would think if it's too light, like, would there be current that would make it float away or push around?
I hadn't thought of that. So fish in the river, maybe the lighter one would be harder to maintain, the lighter camera. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. It's a good point. Every once in a while, you have a good point.
It happens once every show.
I really like, it was really instructive for me last year watching some of the lure action on the camera. How you were talking earlier about where you put the minnow and how the hook faces, like just watching like the different stiffness of a rod, mono versus braid, just the differences in action, sometimes. You ever notice, and it happens a lot, where you got two guys sitting in a house 4 feet apart, same lure, and one guy's catching fish and one guy's not.
Happens all the time.
And sometimes we think, well, the fish are just going through that hole. They're going over there. And what we've learned through watching live scope is those fish see that lure way before you think they see that lure.
Yeah.
And so, when a fish is approaching from 8, 10 feet, 12 feet away and sees two lures hanging down, it's not, he's got a choice between which one he's going to go to.
Right.
And you think you're doing the same thing, but when you watch it on camera, you realize that, how you flip, how you load the rod, how the rod lets you load it, depend on the action. Is it a medium action, a light action, fast tip, not? What all the millions of things there is. Do you have a spring bobber on the end that's making it different?
Yep.
All those things affect the action of that lure. And if you don't have a camera on, you can't learn what you were doing at the time you caught that fish to repeat it.
Yeah, you're right.
It's just luck. So that's the journey I'm taking with cameras when I can see my stuff.
Yeah, I would like to have one. I mean, I'm more attracted to the smaller ones. I used to be really turned off, and maybe I'm still a little bit, but just the clunky, like, you have a cable down there, and I mean, they've gotten so much lighter and so much easier to deal with. Like, the one you have now is really big. Most of them fit in your pocket, right?
That's what I'm after.
It's so much different than when it fits in your pocket, and then when you got to, I don't know. I think they've come a long ways.
And it provides some entertainment.
Yeah.
So if I get one of these SD cards, then also we'll have some content for for our thing, or what do you call it? What's that thing we're
YouTube?
on, where you put us on the internet? YouTube.
YouTube. That thing, YouTube.
That thing you do.
Yeah.
You upload us and people listen. YouTube. Hopefully, occasionally when they're bored.
All right. So I think, Jay, it was a good show. We had a good time. It's always good we got together. We could see each other. I feel like
you're telling me goodbye.
No, I think it's time to
you're
move
kicking
on.
me off. Oh, the ice fishing show was a great show. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant like this show. I felt like you were saying
the ice fishing show. The ice fishing show was good.
Oh,
the ice fishing show was good.
It was a great ice fishing show, and we talked to some folks. We're gonna try to get them on the show with us, as guests this season. So we're hopefully have some good content coming to you. That was made possible by going to the St. Paul Ice Fishing Show. We do want to give them a shout out for letting us have media passes again, so we can wander around without having to pay entry fee.
Yeah, talk to all the wonderful people.
Yes, wonderful people.
And we got pizza at Casetas.
We did get pizza at Casetas,
which is my favorite.
It's good pizza.
It's a fun place.
Place is chaotic.
It is.
And Jeff and parking ramps is a.
We don't even want to talk about that. Don't blame me. That was like,
you could have just parked where I wanted you to park.
The 30-minute zone, and we had to shovel our pizza in our face.
It would have been. We were out of there anyway. It would have been fine. Not like they're going to tow you.
That was the creepiest parking ramp I have ever been on.
2 floors with no lights.
And it's a 2-way parking ramp. And we went through a spot where 2 pickup trucks were both parked. And I mean, I barely fit one car through that gap.
That was a bad ramp, man.
A 4-door long box with a cow catcher on the front of it. I mean, that thing was like hanging out so far I could barely get through it, and 2 cars were supposed to pass each other on that.
This was the ramp by the Holiday Inn down there in St. Paul.
Gosh.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. It was crazy.
Yeah, I have an F-150 that's not that big, and there were giant trucks in there, and I'm like, man, this is tough. So, Jason and I have different parking strategies.
I do. Yeah,
and they don't
They
don't usually tow your car in Iowa. In St. Paul and Minneapolis, there might be different stories to that.
I don't care. I mean, it wasn't my car, so if they towed it, it was whatever to me. Take an Uber home. Not dodge your wife.
The love. All right, so Jay, ready to move on to Legend?
Yeah, I am. So we're doing something a little different. Jeff, you want to talk to people about that?
Yeah, or do you want to talk to people about that?
I certainly can. So we're going to start with our legend. We actually have our ice fishing legend sponsored, which we've never done that before. So it's kind of an exciting first for us. The legend's going to be sponsored by Dakota Sunset Resort on Devil's Lake. How do you pronounce this, Jeff?
Minnewacan,
North Dakota.
Right next to Devil's Lake.
Yeah, it's on Devil's Lake there. Yeah. So it sits on the West Bay on Devil's Lake. It's 6 hours from Minneapolis, under 3 hours from Fargo, and 10 hours from Madison. You can access the lake right from the resort, and you can drive on directly from your cabin. So it's pretty cool. If you've never fished Devil's Lake, it's a hoot. We've been out there a couple of times. That whole area is just geared towards fishing.
Oh yeah,
it's phenomenal. So
there's good fish there. I mean,
absolutely.
Headquarters for Jason Mitchell. So I mean, not this resort, but Devil's Lake in general is
absolutely.
So
yeah. And their website is dakotasunsetresort.com. And we'll put a link up for that for everybody to have that.
We're working hard on a date where Jason and I are going to head out there.
We are. We're going to go check it out.
We haven't coordinated a date quite yet, but it's going to happen.
We're going to work on it. And so we'll shoot some pictures up and have a little bit. And we're trying to get the owner of the resort on too, just to tell us all about it a little bit more. So it'll be fun. And our legend, Jeff, this is a first. We finally had somebody do what I asked.
Yeah, it recorded.
Absolutely, which is way better than us telling the story.
So I put a free here. So it's recorded, and it's from Basshole, who's also a patron also. And we talked about him, I think, last week even, that he sent it in. So our legend comes from Basshole, who sent in a nice legend. It's a howling good time about ice fishing in the mountains.
All right.
That's what it. So here it is.
Take a listen.
Hey guys, this is Chris, also known as Bass Hole. I have a little legend for you. I figured I'd tell you. So it was myself, my brother, and one of our friends went out on an early ice fishing trip. It was early in the year, and there's a lake kind of up in the mountains. So one of the first lakes to really have ice. So we know it's a good bass spot. We like fishing for bass, and you can usually get a lot of 1 to 1.5 pounders. Keeps you pretty busy, but occasionally you can land that 3 to 4 pounder if you wait it out long enough. But we got up there early, started drilling our holes, just had finished putting up our tip ups, and we see across the lake they look like 3 dogs kind of slowly moving their way toward us. So we kept an eye on them a little bit. They were moving fairly slowly. We didn't know, there's no houses up there because this is up on top of a mountain, and there's no houses in the area. So we weren't sure what exactly it was. And as they got a little closer, our buddy says, geez, he thinks they're probably coyotes. And as they got a little closer and closer, my brother looks at me and says, hey, did you bring your handgun? I said, no, I didn't take it with me this time, just because we were up, state land and all that. I didn't think I would need to have it. But he, as they got a little bit closer, we noticed, in fact, they were not coyotes. They were actually wolves. So here we are, 3 of us, 3 wolves approaching us, no weapon to protect ourselves. So what do 3 grown men do? Well, we start waving our hands and screaming like crazy and trying to scare them away. It worked. They slowed down, kind of stopped, and then made their way back into the woods. And we probably looked like a bunch of fools, but I guess it was better than getting attacked by 3 wolves. Now, in the state we live in, they say there aren't wolves, and they also say there aren't mountain lions, but I know there are because 1, we saw these wolves, and 2, I've seen a mountain lion. So I guess they don't like to acknowledge it, but they're here. Anyway, I thought you might enjoy that. Be well, guys. Keep up the great work.
I really, again, thank Basshole for sending in his legend about the wolves. And thanks for listening, and have a tight lines. That's your line.
Cheers, I guess. I don't know what just happened there. We'll try to do better next time.
That was all messed up. All right.
5. You've been listening to the Hard Water Fishing Show with Jeff and Jason.
Say goodbye.
One of the most unique podcasts on the planet, where we talk about tactics, gear, and ice fishing legends. We'll be back soon.
Bye-bye.
Till then, signing off.
Bye-bye.